Today you're going to complete a cladogram worksheet. What is a cladogram? It's a diagram that depicts evolutionary relationships among groups. It is based on phylogeny, which is the study of evolutionary relationships. Sometimes a cladogram is called a phylogenetic tree, though technically there are minor differences between the two. In the past, biologists would group organisms based solely on their physical appearance. Today, with the advances in genetics and biochemistry, biologists can look more closely at individuals to discover their pattern of evolution and group them accordingly. This strategy is called evolutionary classification. Cladistics is a form of analysis that looks at features of organisms that are considered innovations or newer features that serve some kind of purpose. These characteristics appear in later organisms, but not earlier ones, and are called derived characters. Part 1. Analyze the cladogram. Examine the sample cladogram below. Each letter on the diagram points to a derived character or something different or newer than was seen in previous groups. Match the letter to its character. Note, this cladogram was created for simplicity and understanding. It does not represent the established phylogeny for insects and their relatives. Okay, so here we have this cladogram down here. And then we have these different letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And so whatever trait matches here means all of these have to have it. So we're going to look at all of these options here. And what trait do all of those insects have? And so if we look, they don't all have wings. They don't all have 6 legs. But do they all have some type of body segment? So I think number 3 matches to A. So all of these insects have a segmented body. Next, we move on to B. So what is a trait that the worm doesn't have, but all of these have? So now we're going to look. And I get 2 legs. So they all have legs of some type. So number 7 is B. So now we're going to move on to C. So what is a trait that the worm and the spider do not have, but all the rest of these do have? So they're not at wings yet. Do they all have 6 legs? So if we count, it looks like they all have 6 legs. So now for letter C, I think that matches to 6 legs. All right, then D was done for you. So D is a crushing mouth part. So now I'm going to move on to E. So what kind of trait does just the grasshopper have over here at E? So I'm going to look at, what does the grasshopper have that's unique to the grasshopper? And I think it's going to be jumping legs. So I'm going to put E for number 5. Okay, now we're moving on to F. So what are some characteristics that the remaining 3 insects have that the rest of these don't have? Okay, and so if we look, all of these have wings. So I'm going to put an F by wings. Then I'm going to move on to G. So what do the final 2 have that the rest don't have? And so if I look, they both have a double set of wings. And then finally for H, well, what does the butterfly have that the rest don't have? And so if we look, the butterfly has that curly antenna. So then the way the cladogram works is if a trait comes before everything, it means that all of these organisms have that trait. Okay. Let's look at B here. So if we see a trait here in the cladogram, everything that comes after B all have that trait, and everything that comes before B doesn't have that trait. So now you're going to look at the backside. So on the back side, you're going to create your own cladogram. Okay. To do that, first you're going to look at the animals you're studying, which are the human, the catfish, the slug, the tiger, and the frog. And then you're going to establish the characteristics they share and the ones that are unique to each group. So then for the animals on the table, indicate whether the characteristic is present or not by writing in a check mark in the appropriate boxes. Okay. So the first characteristic is going to be cells. So if any of these animals are made up of cells, you're going to give it a check mark. Okay. So humans are made up of cells, catfish made up of cells, slug made up of cells, tiger, yes, frog, yes. Okay. And then you're going to move on to the backbone. So if they have a backbone, give them a check mark. And then you'll move on to legs. So if they have legs, you'll give them a check mark. If they have hair, you'll give them a check mark. And then if they have opposable thumbs, give them a check mark. So then after you finish your check marks, down here in the blank space, you're going to draw and label your own cladogram just like you did on the previous page.